You spent last summer watering, weeding, and waiting, and by September, you pulled everything out and started over. And it keeps happening every year because you're treating gardening like a reset. This video fixes that. What you're about to see is not a plant list. It's a system that turns your fence into permanent food production. Plant number 7 alone produces through the peak of summer heat. When everything else shuts down, stay for that one. Before we talk about a single plant, you need to understand the 4 zones this entire system runs on. Most gardeners skip this, and that's why their results never match what they see online. Zone 1, the sun wall, a south or west facing fence with 6 or more hours of direct sun. This is your productive core. Zone 2, the shade corner, the spot that has beaten everything you've tried. Deep shade, often dry at the surface. Most gardeners write it off, we don't. Zone 3, the wet patch, low ground that holds water after rain. Usually ignored or drained, wrong move. Zone 4, the dry corner, baking cracked soil from July onward. When you match plants to these zones correctly, establishment becomes easier, maintenance drops significantly, and plants come back stronger each year. Because they're finally in conditions they were built for. One mistake silently kills this in year 1. Almost nobody talks about it. Shallow watering. Push your finger 2 inches into the soil near a new vine. Bone dry down there. The roots have no reason to go deeper. And perennials with shallow roots don't survive summer heat or come back well the following spring. Deep water in year 1 only. After that, most of these plants find their own supply. But skip this early stage and you lose the entire window. Layer 1, the sun wall. Plant 1, hardy kiwi. The anchors start here. Hardy kiwi can cover a south-facing fence in 2 seasons and, in most temperate climates, typically begins producing a serious fruit harvest by year 3. It shades and cools the fence surface while it builds, which matters for everything planted near it. Most people lose this plant before it ever produces. Not because of climate, not because of soil, but because of weak structural support. By year 3, the combined vine weight and fruit load will often snap a plastic trellis completely. Install metal cattle panels before you plant. One decision made once. Get that wrong and year 3 becomes year 1 again. Plant 2 hops, the fastest coverage on this list. In good conditions, hops can reach 15 to 20 feet in a single season, making it the fastest coverage option here by a significant margin. Most people only think about brewing and miss the edible, young shoots in spring, tender, mild, and ready before most things in the garden have even woken up. The failure point is always support. What holds a young vine in year 1 typically will not hold the returning root system in year 2. Build for what the plant becomes. Here's what most people don't expect. The vine you plant this spring and the vine that erupts next spring are not the same plant. The root system that overwinters can produce 2 to 3 times the growth you originally planted. Most gardeners build for the seedling, they're not ready for the return. One honest warning, hops can spread aggressively through underground runners. Plant it where you can manage the edges or contain the root zone before it takes over. Plant 3, maypop passionflower. Most people throw this plant away the moment it starts working. Most growers assume passionflower is tropical, something fragile that needs replanting every spring. Maypop is North America's native species. In zone 6 and above, it typically survives hard winters by dying completely to the ground and returning in late spring, often larger than the previous year. The single most common mistake, digging it up in October when it disappears. It looks dead. Every instinct says replace it, don't. Mark the spot. Leave it. By season 3, most growers have a vine that has become a permanent fixture, one they never have to replant. Before we go further, what will not work for most people? 3 plants commonly appear on perennial food fence lists that cause real problems in average yards. Siberian pea shrub is often promoted as a high-protein nitrogen fixer. It can work in the right conditions, usually larger rural properties with space and patience for a long establishment window. But in a typical suburban fence setup, most growers find it slow, underwhelming to harvest, and easy to accidentally push into excess leaf growth through over-fertilization, worth knowing about, but not worth a prime fence position for most people. Mint family ground covers in the wrong spot will colonize everything around them within 2 seasons. Not a reason to avoid them, a reason to contain them. Use a buried root barrier or a controlled bed. Any perennial marketed as spreads aggressively is an advantage in large spaces and a liability in small ones. Know your square footage before you choose. Layer 2, the problem zone fillers. Plant 4, Caucasian spinach, built for the corner that has beaten everything else. Deep shade where nothing else has ever grown properly. This is exactly where this plant belongs. Common beginner mistake: planting it in full sun thinking more light means more growth. In direct summer sun, the leaves turn bitter, production drops, and the plant weakens. Deep shade is not a compromise here, it is the preferred condition. Give it your worst corner. Plant 5, groundnut, the wet zone specialist. Low ground that stays wet after rain is usually written off. Groundnut was built for it. It fixes nitrogen, climbs upward, and produces edible tubers underground, while the vine covers whatever structure it's given. In dry, well-drained soil, it typically underperforms. This is a specialist, not a general-purpose plant. Match it to the wet zone, and it becomes one of the most productive plants in the entire system. Put it in the wrong spot, and it will make that clear immediately. There is a pattern in how the best producing food fences are designed, and it is not about the plants. It is about reading what the ground already wants to do and working with it instead of against it. That is the difference between this and a plant list. Plant 6, Malabar spinach. The summer gap solved. Standard spinach bolts in June. Most summer greens shut down in July. For most gardens, that is it, a long stretch of heat with nothing leafy to harvest. Malabar spinach starts producing right when everything else stops. It climbs, handles 90-degree heat well, stays tender when other greens turn bitter or wilted, and in most climates continues all the way through to the first frost. One condition: skip deep watering in the first 2 weeks and the roots stay shallow. Shallow roots going into a heat wave means the plant hits stress at the exact moment it was meant to perform. Get the roots down early, that is the whole job in week 1. Layer 3, the long-term layer. Plant 7, Turkish rocket. It closes the early season gap. Every food fence has a dead window, late winter and early spring, when nothing is ready. Turkish rocket produces edible greens in late winter, before most vegetables are even in the ground. It naturalizes along a partly shaded fence line with minimal input. One condition most people miss: it needs at least partial sun to produce well. Deep shade cuts output significantly. Shaded fence line. That is its position. Plant 8, Akebia. Almost nobody in Western gardening grows this. The fruit is edible. The young leaves are edible. It climbs in both sun and partial shade. And because so few people grow it, almost no one in your neighborhood has it. One detail most people skip, and it costs them the entire harvest. You need 2 plants for reliable fruit set. One vine produces years of strong growth and, in most cases, very little fruit. 2 plants cross-pollinating changes that completely. Not optional, the vine without a partner is a beautiful fruitless mistake. Plant 9, Scarlet Runner Bean. Most gardeners pull this at exactly the wrong moment. In zones 7 and above, Scarlet Runner Bean roots overwinter underground, and the plant returns each year, typically larger and more productive than the previous season. Most growers treat it as an annual, pull it in October, and replant from seed each spring. They are rebuilding what they already had. Leave the roots mark the spot. Year 2, it comes back stronger. Year 3, it becomes a permanent part of the fence that no longer needs replanting. One condition: build a strong support from day 1. The returning root system drives heavier top growth each season, and a support that held in year 1 often fails under year 2's output. Plant 10, Drought, hardy perennial beans. For the corner that cracks every July. These perennial bean varieties typically push roots deep enough in year 1 to handle drought conditions by year 2. In most cases, they need very little water from year 2 onward, but that outcome depends entirely on deep establishment in year 1. The real risk is the opposite condition: wet or poorly drained soil in the first season. Root rot becomes likely. Find the driest problem spot in your yard, that is their position. Plant 11, hardy grapevine. The one climbing food plant that earns its space on every level. Most people think of grapes as an orchard crop, something that needs a vineyard setup and dedicated space they don't have. Hardy grape varieties change that. They can cover a properly reinforced fence system, return stronger every year, and eventually produce more usable food per linear meter of fence than most climbers on this list. But only if the structure is correct from day one. A decorative fence will fail. By year 3 to 4, the combined weight of vine, leaves, and fruit clusters becomes a structural load, not a decorative one. Weaker ornamental framing bends, separates, or collapses under it. Grapes only work long-term if the fence is engineered and reinforced like a trellis system, not treated as a surface the plant simply grows on. Plant 12 asparagus, the infrastructure crop for the edge most people ignore. Not everything in this system climbs. Some plants define the permanent base layer that makes the entire system stable long-term. Every yard has a narrow, under-used edge, usually along a fence line or boundary, where nothing productive seems to last. Not a foot traffic strip, not compacted ground, but a stable, sunny border that gets overlooked every season because nothing obvious seems to belong there. Asparagus turns that space into long-term structure. It is a true perennial that returns every spring for up to 2 decades once established, getting stronger and more productive each year. But it demands patience most gardeners are not prepared for. The root system builds first. Above-ground growth in year 1 is not the payoff, it is the foundation. The most common mistake is harvesting too early. Pulling spears before the crown is fully established weakens the underground system before it has completed development. Most failures come from treating asparagus like an annual crop. It is not an annual crop. Year 1 establish only, no harvest. Year 2 very light harvest, a few spears, nothing more. Year 3 onward full, reliable production every spring. Spacing matters more than most guides acknowledge. 18 inches between crowns is the minimum for long-term productivity. Crowd them, and you don't just reduce yield. You permanently weaken all plants involved as root systems compete underground from day 1. Place asparagus in a stable, sunny edge with well-drained soil, not compacted, not waterlogged, not heavily shaded. Leave it completely undisturbed during establishment. That patience is the entire job in the early years. What comes back every spring after year 3 requires almost nothing from you except harvest. One important thing to say clearly before the framework section. This is not a zero maintenance setup. No real garden is. What changes with perennials in the right zones is the type of work. You stop replanting from scratch. You stop watering daily in summer. What you do instead is simple annual pruning, occasional containment of aggressive spreaders, and structural checks on supports before each season. That is significantly less labor than starting over every year, but it is not nothing. A vine wilting in afternoon summer heat is usually not a crisis. It is a normal conservation response, the plant reducing leaf surface to slow moisture loss. If it recovers by evening, nothing is wrong. Only water if the wilt continues into the following morning. Repeated shallow watering is where most people go wrong. It keeps roots near the surface, making them more vulnerable to heat stress and rot. Deep roots in year 1 reduce that risk. Not constant watering later, but proper establishment early. Walk your yard before you buy anything. Sun wall hardy kiwi, hops, and scarlet runner bean. Deep shade corner Caucasian spinach. Wet low ground groundnut. Dry cracking corner drought hardy perennial beans. Semi-shaded fence line, Turkish rocket and akebia. Zone fit determines outcome, not brand, not soil amendments, and not how much you water. The plant that is exactly where it wants to be will need very little from you. The plant in the wrong spot will keep asking for help until it fails. Year 1 will look underwhelming. That is root establishment. That is exactly what should be happening. Year 2 is visible expansion. Year 3 is full production across most layers. Go outside today. Look at your fence. Look at the dry corner, the shaded wall, and the soggy patch. Every one of those is a zone waiting to be matched. You don't need to plant the entire system this season. Pick one zone. Match it to the right plant from this list. Get it in the ground while the window is open. Drop your USDA zone or zip code in the comments, and you'll know exactly which plant fits your yard. Most gardens start over every spring. The people who planted perennials last summer do not. That gap only gets wider every year you wait. You already know which side you want to be on.